Hey kids, Flexing Teacher Weber here. I hope you're having a good day. We have been looking at place value of very small numbers. Now we have gone into even smaller numbers. We have gone into looking at thousandths and 10,000ths. Now, a thousandth is represented by a base 10 block we've used before. This very small little cube. And 1,000 of these would make up one of the large cubes that represent one whole. This is represented in the third decimal spot, or the fraction 1 over 1,000. Now, if we took that yellow cube and broke it into 10 equal parts and broke it into 10 little tiny pieces, that would be 1/10,000th, which is represented by the fourth decimal spot and the fraction 1 over 10,000. If we're looking at these on a place value chart, here's our decimal right here. This is the tenths, this is the hundredths, this is the thousandths, and this is the 10,000ths. Now, what we started doing today is we started taking numbers that were expanded into their parts, and we started writing them in standard form. And we were doing this on a place value chart. I gave all the kids one of these place value charts. So let's take a look at the first question here. It says, write in standard form, and we have this number broken into its parts. We have the whole number 4, then 3/10ths, 5/100ths, and 6/1000ths. So what we do, we start with our 4 ones. Well, 4 ones is the place right next to the decimal, to the left. Next, we have our decimal point. We have 3/10ths. So 3/10ths goes in the tenths, the first decimal spot. We have 5 in the second decimal spot, so 5/100ths. And we have a 6 in the third decimal spot, so 6/1000ths. And there's our number written on the place value chart. I'll also write it over here. This is 4 for the decimals, so we say and 356 thousandths. Let's look at another one. So this one we have 10 plus 1 plus 8 in the tenths, 1 in the hundredths, 4 in the thousandths. Well, 10 plus 1 is 11. So in my units area of my place value chart, I have 1 in the tens, 1 in the ones for 11. Now I'll look at my first decimal spot. My first decimal spot, I have an 8. My second decimal spot, I have a 1. My third decimal spot, I have a 4. Oh, and I forgot to put my decimal, which goes right here. So we would say that's 11 and 814 thousandths. 11 and 814 thousandths. Let's look at another one. Number 3. We have 4 ones. We have 3 in the second decimal spot and 2 in the third decimal spot. So I'll start with 4 ones. There's 4 ones. Next I have my decimal. Now check this out. I have a 3 in the second decimal spot. So my 3 goes in the hundredths. And I have a 2 in the third decimal spot, so my 2 goes in the thousandths. I actually don't have any tenths, but I can't just leave it blank. I have to put a 0 there as a placeholder. So there's my decimal number. My decimal number is 4. And for the decimal, 32 thousandths. You always say the number, then for the decimal you say and, then you just say whatever number is there, followed by the place value of the final digit. 4 and 32 thousandths. Let's look at one more like this. So this one, if we take a look at what we have, look at the whole numbers I have. I have 200 plus 10 plus 4. That's 214. So in my units area, I'll have 214. Next, I have a 7 in the first decimal spot. So a 7 in the first decimal spot, and I forgot to put my decimal in. Then I have a 5 in the third decimal spot, right? 1, 2, 3. So I'll put a 5 in the third decimal spot. And look what I'm missing this time. I'm missing the second decimal spot. I'm missing the hundredths. So I have to have a placeholder there. We'll put a 0 placeholder. I'll rewrite this number and say it as I write it. 214, the decimal is and, 705 thousandths. There's your number, kids. Let's look at a few now where we have the 10 thousandths. So I'm going to flip ahead. So there's I have a whole number. I have a first decimal spot, second decimal spot, third decimal spot, fourth decimal spot. So I'll start with the 3. The 3, I have 3 ones. So I'll put 3 in the ones. Then I have my decimal. I have a 1 in the first decimal spot. I have a 2 in the second decimal spot, the hundredths. I have a 3 in the third decimal spot, the thousandths. I have a 4 in the fourth decimal spot, the 10 thousandths. So there's my number. It's a big one. Now watch how I say this. I say 3 and 1,234. Place value of the last digit is 10 thousandths. So 3 and 1,234 10 thousandths. Let's do a couple more like this. Skip ahead. Number 6. Now look at the whole numbers I have. A lot of digits here. Look at the whole numbers I have. I have 500 plus 20 plus 3. That's 523. That's in the units area. 523. Next I have my decimal. Now let's look at what decimal places I have. I have a 9 in the tenths. I have a 6 in the second decimal spot. I have a 7 in the third decimal spot. And I have a 7 in the fourth decimal spot. And there's my number. So that's going to be 523, the decimal. So 523 and 9,677. Place value of the last digit is 10 thousandths. 523 and 9,677, 10 thousandths. All right, let's look at some where we're missing certain place values. So this one here, I have a 90 and a 4, and then I have my decimals. Well, 90 and 4 makes 94. So if I go to my units area, I have 9 tens. Rewrite that. 9 tens, 4 ones. Decimal. Now in my first place value spot, the first decimal spot, I have a 1. Be careful here. In the third decimal spot, I have a 7, so a 7 in the thousandths. In the fourth decimal spot, I have a 6. I'm missing the hundredths, so I have to put a 0 placeholder there. And my number will be 94 and 1,076 10 thousandths. 94 and 1,076. Place value, the last digit is 10 thousandths. Let's look at one last question. Okay, 700 plus 1 plus a 5 in the third place value and a 4th in the fourth place value. Well, look at this, 700 plus 1. That's 701. So in the units area, I'll put 701. Decimal. Now I'm in my small numbers. I have a 5 in the third decimal spot. So 5 goes all the way in the thousandths. I have a 4 in the fourth decimal spot. So 4 goes all the way in the 10,000ths, which means I have 2 spots that are open. Those spots require zeros as placeholders. And there's my number. 701 and 54 10,000ths. 701 and 54 10,000ths. All right, kids, there's how you take a number that's expanded and write it in standard form and also say the number. Now, you have an assignment today that you did in class that is homework if you're not done. Make sure you use this place value chart and use this video to help you. I hope that's all for now, and I hope that helps. That is all for now. Flexing Teacher Weber, out.